We want to go ahead and round out the show, bringing in the executive director for the Chaldean Cultural Center, Weam Namou. Great to have you with us. How are you today?
Good. Hi. Thanks for having me again.
Tell us more for those that maybe aren't familiar with the Chaldean Cultural Center. What do you guys do over there, and where is it located?
Well, it's located in West Bloomfield, and we have the world's first and only Chaldean museum. And Chaldeans are an indigenous people of Iraq. They're Neo-Babylonians and a minority Christian in that region. And since about 2015, Michigan has become our home because now it has the largest population of Chaldeans in the world. We used to be the second largest population, second to Iraq, but now we are the largest population here.
How does that happen? How did we become the Mecca for Chaldeans?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it started off slowly. The Chaldeans originally came because there was a community of Lebanese and Syrians that lived here that spoke the Arabic language. And so they felt that there was a sense of community. There was also the Henry Ford's $5 a day opportunity. And so they felt like this was the right place for them to come and connect and to establish their community. And they did that. And so it was the Lebanese and Syrians that originally helped the Chaldeans establish themselves and get their act together. And then once the Chaldeans were in a stronger place, they were able to bring their families here.
It really is fascinating, but I feel like the Chaldean community has really been a vital part of the economic engine for the state of Michigan.
Yes, and part of the reason is I love when I give tours at the museum, which I hope to give you a tour one day when you come. I love to show that from ancient times that we have had relationship with money, that it's not just about, just kind of embracing the American dream and understanding its value, but this since ancient times, the Babylonians were known to create, and they invented the shekel. And so we have a good relationship with money and hard work. And even faith. It was from ancient times where you will find a lot of the statues where the families are standing together like this in prayer form. And that's just because this is before even any kind of religion was formed, the kind that we have today, the various religions we have today. They would work very hard, and they credited the gods for their work. They didn't take credit for themselves, but they were able to invent many things, including the shekel. And The Secret, I don't know if you've read the book, in The Secret, they mention early on about, look at how the Babylonians did it, because this was their success story. And unfortunately, that people and that culture was destroyed in that region, and now I guess it lives on here in Michigan.
Well, and it is a very tight-knit community, the Chaldean community. It is about family, and it's really a beautiful thing, and so much that we can all learn from that. And if I can ask you, because I know you guys have a new project over there at the Cultural Center, the Digital Storytelling Project. You have a background in communications. You're very savvy with communications. Were you the driving force behind this project? How did it come about?
Yes, I do have to take credit for it only because I am a storyteller. I've written 14 books. I'm involved in film, and I understand the power of storytelling, not just on a sense of self-expression, but it's also on the power of healing. I myself, because of the trauma of being born in Iraq, and even though I left when I was a child, but there's ancestral trauma that you kind of bring along with you, that I was fortunate enough that I found many people here in the United States who helped me through it. And then I found that really through story that you can transform your life. And part of where we came from, the region where we came from was very oppressive. And you were too scared to just even identify yourself. And today it's even worse, where you are, you have to put your identity, your religion, and that could cost you your life. So I guess we had it easier even during that time, because we left in 1980. And so I saw some of the things that had happened there that were very, like they affected who I am today, and especially as a writer trying to express herself and as a woman as well. And so when all the things were happening, which I noticed that we talked about a year ago, 11 months ago, and this was during COVID, and we were trying to see like how to continue working. There was so many foundations that were incredibly helpful in trying to keep arts and culture alive. And so we were looking at what would be something that would be beneficial for people, for communities. And I found the digital storytelling that it was something that not only I was interested in before, but I also did a lot of studies and found that other organizations, including like Native Americans, Hispanics, and other communities had used it and that it was effective. And some used it in different ways, whether it was for cultural purposes or people with cancer, that groups with cancer that used it for healing purposes. And for us, what we do is, and this is really thanks to the generous donation of the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, and more recently, Michigan Humanities, which is going to allow us to translate and subtitle these videos. And so we interview people. We are starting with the elderly because they're really the more vulnerable community, especially with COVID. And they speak in their Aramaic language, which is, we don't know that we could actually preserve this language, but at least we can document it for the new generation to listen to, if nothing else. And in the Aramaic language, they share their experience, where they were born, what were their childhood experiences, what things they witnessed, what was their experience coming to the United States, and what was their experience with COVID. And the interviews are fairly the same, like 30 minutes. And then we're doing 30 participants this year, and we're gonna, like I said, translate and subtitle the videos. And we're very excited about this project because every home I enter, when you hear their stories, and you can tell, I mean, people in their 90s, that's what they want to leave, and they understand the power of that. And they not only want to express themselves, but they want their grandkids and their great grandkids and the new generation to recognize and remember them and know what it was like in Iraq.
It really is a beautiful legacy that they're leaving behind, and it's a lesson in life that we can all learn from as well. In doing these interviews, what have you learned from speaking with some of the individuals?
I have learned that, and this was the case for my mom too, that they had the kind of wisdom that you don't need to know how to read and write to have it. They just have so much common sense, so much heart, so much discipline, so much understanding, and so much kindness. And they were always like giving, again, just like the ancients did, credit to God. Well, thank God that God brought us here. God was generous to us by, I was almost gonna die and he saved our lives. And just that language. And so like, I'll be maybe running around and trying to get my kids, taking care of this thing and then my dog. And by the time I get out of the house and by the time I sit with them, I'm transported into another world where life was simpler, and they just handed things over to their faith and just really worked hard. And their messages were so simple, but it worked. And I just love that. I always walk away feeling calmer and more peaceful. I feel like I've gone through like a meditative type of experience.
Weam Namou with us here on the MegaCast. She's the executive director for the Chaldean Cultural Center. And can I ask, do you have any other projects going on over at the Cultural Center people should check out?
Well, another thing that we're very excited about, that this happened also due to COVID, and I think like COVID was there was a lot of negativities that was associated with that, but we also opened up globally. A lot of people were able, and organizations, including ourselves, where we started what's called a virtual discussion series. And this was through the kindness of University of Michigan Detroit Center, where they trained us to do online programming and interviews, such as the one that we're doing right now. And the next thing you know, we're interviewing somebody every week that is from different parts of the world. This is like the director of the Baghdad Museum, somebody in Australia, Cambridge University, the professor who's documenting Aramaic language for the past 30 years. I mean, England, filmmakers in England, in Washington, Jewish Iraqis who have that kind of history. It's been amazing, the kind of people that we've had the chance to connect with. And that was, again, thanks to U of M training us. And then we collaborated with Unique Voices in Films, a nonprofit organization, and CMN TV, who replays these videos after they air live.
That is one of the beautiful things coming out of COVID is it has allowed for us to reach people in other faraway places that maybe we would not have been able to have access to one another without this pandemic. And with that, Weam, can I ask you, the Cultural Center, is it open to the public right now?
Yeah, it's through reservation, just because we still like to keep it where, not too many. Like I have a group of seniors that have come visit us today. They were brought by the Chaldean Ladies of Charity. And it's just so exciting because they're like seeing part of their heritage while they're here. And all they have to do is just make a reservation. It's just, that's all we ask.
We'd
be happy to accommodate.
Is there a cost with visiting the center?
Yeah, it's like for groups, it's $5 a person, and for just individuals, it's like $10 a person, and $5 for kids.
That really, though, is nothing. And like you said, it's the first and only such center in the entire world, and it's so important for us to maintain it. But it's right here in our backyard. It's literally down the street.
And it's not just about, sometimes people think that Chaldeans is like it's a community and it kind of belongs within itself, and they don't really see the connection between that and the rest of the world. But this is where the cradle of civilization was formed, where writing and a lot of the things, city-states were formed. So when you come here, you connect to your own history, your Western history, through the ancients of Iraq.
What is your website if people want to find out more information? And did you put some of those digital interviews up on your website as well?
Yes, we have an archive of the digital interviews, and they're all wonderful people from all over the world, as I mentioned, that we get to learn about. So it's not just, you end up finding all these people that were ancients from Iraq, even though whether they're living there or different parts in the world. But they can just visit ChaldeanCulturalCenter.org. And Chaldean it starts with a CH, Chaldean Cultural Center. And
I will say, in your own right, you're a fascinating individual as well. And they're so lucky to have you over there as the executive director.
Thank you. And again, thank you for having me and being interested in what we're doing nowadays. I really appreciate it.
It is doing this show for the past year, I have a huge list of all the places to visit and things to do, and you're on my list. And
I will give you a personal tour, so make sure that you let them know who you are when you're making the reservation, and I'll be here.
Well, thank you so much. I would love that. I'd be honored. And we should note that because we are in such a huge Chaldean community here in the West Bloomfield area, take time to learn more about the people that live next door to us. It's been such a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.